Welcome to lesson number 2 in my no bowl guide to jazz piano. Today we're talking about guide tones with the added ninth. Okay, so today's goal, first of all, we're going to know how to add the ninth to our guide tones for all the chords in the blues. We're also going to play the 12-bar blues along with those guide tones and the added ninth. And I'll also end by showing you exactly what it is you should be practicing. So we're going to be building off of that basic dominant seventh chord again, and we're going to be adding in some tensions. Now here's a generic definition of tensions. I go through this in more detail in my JAZZEDGE site, but just a generic definition. Tensions are notes that are added to the chord that give it color, right? And they usually do not replace the chord tones, and I'll explain what I mean in a second. All right, so chord tensions are usually greater than 8, meaning that that's like we refer to it as the ninth, the sharp 11, the 13, the flat 13, the flat 9, like those are our chord tensions. So they might be altered, like sharp 9, flat 13, sharp 11. And the different tensions and their alterations really depend on the chord. There is one tension that works great over most of our chords, which I'll explain to you in a second. Now, another generic definition here is when we refer to notes like 2 and 4, those notes are typically replacing a chord tone. So if I had a C major triad and I wanted to add the 2 in there, this would be the ninth added in there. If I wanted 2 in there, that would be typically something like this. The 2 is replacing the third, and then I resolve to the third. But when I have that note in there, typically I'm going to think of that as my ninth, at least in jazz terminology. All right, so here we're adding in the ninth to our C7 chord. Remember, the bottom 2 notes, those were our guide tones that we did in lesson 1, yesterday's lesson, the 3rd and the 7th. And now we have the ninth up there. Now you might think, hey, do I always have to add those tensions up on top of the chord, meaning that they always have to be higher than the chord up this way? Could I put the ninth down there? Sure. Now in this case it doesn't sound very good. I could put it right up in there, right? So here's my 3rd and 7th of C7, and my ninth is there, and I'm just playing my root down here just so you can hear the root. Or if I go to F7, put the ninth right down in there. And you should feel comfortable being able to add those tensions either sandwiched in the middle of your guide tones, below, or above. So you want to get very comfortable knowing those tensions. Now, I said that there is a tension that works extremely well over many of the chords, and that is your ninth. So here for C7, I can add the ninth. That works great. For C major, the ninth works great. And for C minor, the ninth works great. Now listen what happens when I put that tension underneath. Isn't that a pretty sound for C major? Or for C minor, this is a real pretty sound. So you can get some really cool sounds there by moving those notes of the voicing around a little bit. All right, so let's go through the 12 measures of the blues with our guide tones with our added ninth. Here's our C7. The ninth is up on top. Okay. When we move to F7, here's my guide tones, and I'm sandwiching the ninth right down in here. And I'm using pinky, middle finger, and thumb. You could also use 4th finger, 2nd finger, and thumb, but I find that this is a little bit easier because then you can easily get right back to that C7. So from F7 to C7, F7 to C7, F7, C7. And then G minor 7, pinky, 2nd finger, thumb. Right? Notice I'm keeping that 2nd finger on the B flat because that's going to resolve right to my C7 chord. Okay. And then F7 again, F7 again, C7 again. And then A7, there's 7, 9, and 3. When I go to D minor 7, 3, 7, and 9. G7, 7, 9, and 3, C7, 3, 7, 9, A7, sorry, C7, 3, 7, 9, A7, 7, 9, 3, D minor 7, 3, 7, 9, and G7, 7, 9, 3. Now, you might wonder, okay, so like when I'm going from C7 to A7, why do I go there and why don't I go down to that instead for A7? Okay, and then why don't I go down to that for G minor and then that for G7? Okay, well, I could, but the problem is, do you hear how, like, that's okay, but as soon as I get down to this D minor down here, right, that's not going to work very well. It's a little too low, isn't it? Okay, so I just bring that voicing up here. But it is important to know that there's many different ways in which you could play that one chord. I don't have to play it going up here. I could also go down to there. Okay? But when I then move to D minor like this with the 7, the 9, and the 3, it sounds a little bit muddy. Okay? The G7 doesn't sound bad, but that D minor sounds a little bit muddy. You might also wonder, well, really, why are you playing all these voicings like this? Why don't we go from C7 to F7 up like this? Well, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to build off of what you already learned in yesterday's lesson. So now you're used to hopefully doing this, or at least you were exposed to that yesterday in the first lesson. So now we're just adding in that single note. So rather than moving our voicing all the way up here and putting the 3rd on the bottom, the 7th and 9th, which is a prettier looking voicing and a prettier sounding voicing, but the problem is it doesn't build off of what you were learning yesterday. Okay? All right, so anyway, let's put on our iReal Pro backing track. And you know what? I'm going to put this on and make it so you can still see the chords. Okay? So here we go. We're going to play along with. Ready? Go. C7, F7, C7, G minor, C7, F7, F7, C7, A7, D minor, G7, C7, A7, D minor 7, G7, and back to C7. Okay? All right, now you may also be wondering, well, where are we going with this? Well, typically when we play a blues in jazz, we're using these rootless chord voicings, okay? And we're going to be, this is like kind of a preliminary stage to learn those typical rootless chord voicings. So we're just taking it one tension at a time right now. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about adding in the 13th. So in lesson number 3, we will be adding in the 13th to the chord. So I want to take this a little bit slower just in case you're at that intermediate level and you're not fully comfortable with these rootless chord voicings yet. So at this point, what you should know how to do is you should know how to go through, or at least at this point where you should at least understand and know what to practice, is go through and do the guide tones, right? That's what we did in yesterday's lesson, lesson number 1. In today's lesson, lesson number 2, this is adding in that 9th to the chord, okay? So let's go through it one more time, and I'll finish up telling you what to practice. 2, here we go. C7, F7, whoops, sorry, F7, C7, G minor, C7, F7, F7, C7, A7, D minor, G7, C7, A7, D minor, G7, and we end on the C7 chord. Okay? Now obviously you can go through and practice this several times. We're just doing one chorus of the blues. In case you don't know what that means by one chorus of the blues, well, that is one time through the form of the blues. So one time through the entire form, this entire form, one time through is called a chorus. So if I went through 3 times, that's 3 choruses. So if someone says, hey, solo for 2 choruses, that means you're going to solo through the entire 12-bar blues form 2 times. Now, why do we start with the blues? That's another important question that I should answer. So when we're learning to play jazz piano, remember jazz piano is all about what? It's all about improvisation. And that's where we're going to get to in this series. We're going to be moving on to improvisation very, very soon. But in order to get there, we need to set the stage and we need a progression that we can improvise over. Typically, we start with that blues progression. Now, in the beginner No Bowl Guide to Jazz Piano, I start with a much more basic progression, right? More basic than the 12-bar blues. So if you are a little bit lost or you feel like this is a little bit over your head right now, then go take a look at that beginner No Bowl Guide to Jazz Piano. No harm in that, okay? So don't feel bad if you have to bump down to the beginner. In fact, there's a lot of great information in there, which you might not even know. So I suggest you check it out. All right, so now to practice, what I would suggest that you work on is basically two things. Number one, go through and do what we just did. Just play the guide tones with the added ninth over all of those chords, okay? So just make sure you can do that. Play along with the backing track, and then you're good to go. Now, obviously, the bonus is just add some rhythm to the chords. Right? So just add some rhythm while you're playing that, and you're basically adding some comping rhythm. We'll talk more about comping in a little bit, but basically you're just adding some rhythm to the chords. So that's what you could do as a bonus. Now, if you would like to post your videos, please go and join the No Bowl Piano Facebook group. Right? It's a great group of supportive individuals. I will be adding information in there, okay? And just go to Facebook and search for No Bowl Piano and ask to be a member of the group. I'd love to have you as a member of the group. We're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff in the group. And then you'll be able to see other students posting their jam videos, okay? So really, really important to do that. To download the resources, if you're already a member of JAZZEDGE or No Bowl Piano or my other site, you'll find the sheet music right along with the lesson. If you're not a member, just go back to NobowPiano/NBGJP. So No Bowl Guide Jazz Piano, okay? So just go right back there and then you can download the sheet music. That link is also right below the video on YouTube if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, okay? Also, do me a favor, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Especially if you're watching this on the site, go back to YouTube, take a look at the JAZZEDGE YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel because in that way you'll know when I'm coming out with new lessons, and I'm constantly adding new material on there. Right? Something important too is to note is that these videos are only going to be on YouTube for the month of April. So come May 1st, all of these No Bowl Guide to Jazz Piano videos will be gone. So if you want to make sure that you get them and see them as they are released, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you get a notification. Like I said, please share your videos. Hashtag No Bowl Piano, hashtag JAZZEDGE when you upload your video to Facebook or Instagram or wherever. And then also join in on the conversation. All right, so that's it for me. I will see you tomorrow. We're going to be adding in our 13th to our chords and making some simplified rootless chord voicings. So we got a lot of stuff to cover. I'll see you in the next lesson.